You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 682 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and that song you are hearing right now is, of course, Leave the Lights On from our good friends in Passafire. You can check those guys out anywhere you get your music, and the Rangers coming off of kind of a disappointing preseason finale. They fall to the Islanders by a final score of 3-1. Kaapo Kakko scores the lone goal for the Rangers, but one of those games that kind of felt like a Rangers-Islanders game from, 2 or 3 years ago, and not in a good way, because at that time, the Islanders pretty much were dominating this rivalry, and they just kind of turned the game into a slog, and there's just not a whole lot of action, happening in the game. So that's kind of what it felt like last night. The Rangers really just couldn't get anything going offensively. Got off to an okay start, but just couldn't really sustain it. And the Rangers conclude the preseason having won just 2 of the 6 games that they've played. And, it's not ideal, obviously. I will say, I think this is a little bit of a disappointing preseason, and I'm going to get into the reasons why in just a little bit here. But I will also say that if the Rangers come out against Tampa Bay on Tuesday night and they win that game in decisive fashion, or really if they win the game at all, then nobody's really going to care about what this team did in the preseason. It will be a long-forgotten memory just like that. But as things stand, a couple of things that concern me at least a little bit about the preseason. It's not even really so much the record. It goes deeper than that. But we will get to that in due time. We're going to talk about that. We will talk about the game itself here, a couple of highlights and lowlights from this game. We're going to talk about some roster decisions for the Rangers as far as how they line up on opening night. Also going to talk about Kaapo Kakko and his big preseason, because it looks like he's starting to perhaps solidify himself on the top line right wing spot there. And I want to start today by talking about the line combinations that the Rangers went with for this game, as well as Vitali Kravtsov's absence from the lineup and what that could potentially mean. So, for starters, the lineup. You've got Mika centering Kreider and Kakko, Trocheck centering Panarin and Vesey, Hedl centering Lafreniere and Goodrow, Carpenter centering Blais and Reeves. Then you've got Miller and Fox, you've got Jones and Schneider, and you've got Tinordi and Bartkowski. And I think this is pretty close to what the Rangers are going to go with on opening night. Obviously, 2 notable absences coming into this game. Well, Kravtsov for sure, but also, as far as defensemen are concerned, you had, Ryan Lindgren and Jacob Trouba not in the lineup, which meant we got to see the intriguing combination of K'Andre Miller and Adam Fox skating as the Rangers' top pairing. Now, I'm not looking for the Rangers to do anything different going into the regular season, but when I saw that both Lindgren and Trouba were not going to play in this game, I was hoping the Rangers would do this, give Miller and Fox a little bit of run together. I mean, it's happened every once in a blue moon in the past, but we've never really seen the 2 of them out there on the ice. Now, when the regular season starts, once again, I would stick with Lindgren and Fox and Miller and Trouba. It falls under the category of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's been an awesome quartet, and those 2 pairings have played very well together. But it is good to know that you can shake things up if you need to. If you want to go with an old school hard hitting pairing, you can put Lindgren and Trouba together maybe. And a more dynamic top pairing of Miller and Fox, that's also an option. Again, I would not do that to start the season. I like Lindgren and Fox together. I think they complement each other extraordinarily well. I think Trouba and Miller have great chemistry. Miller has complemented Trouba with, helping him develop in the NHL. So, yeah, I would not do anything different, but it was kind of interesting to see Miller and Fox play together here. And if you need a shakeup at some point during the season, then you can always give that a shot. But again, start of the regular season, I'm sticking with the same 4 quartet, the same 4 guys in the same 4 spots that the Rangers have been rolling with. But obviously the most notable thing here coming into last night's game is that Vitali Kravtsov wasn't in the lineup, because by that point we already pretty much knew that Lindgren and Trouba weren't going to be playing, both dealing with what are said to be minor injuries, both expected to be good to go on Tuesday night against Tampa, and so there was no real reason to chance anything here in a preseason finale. But Kravtsov, I think most of us, certainly me, expected him to be out there against the Islanders in this preseason finale, because Vitali Kravtsov is in a spot where, he's trying to A, make this team, and B, potentially solidify himself a spot in the top 6, and it's kind of hard to do that if you're not even on the ice. I mean, of all the players to sit out this game, Kravtsov is one of the most surprising because, again, his roster spot and his place on the opening night lineup, if he actually makes the opening night lineup, is very unsettled right now. And so you would think a player, fitting that description would be allowed to play in the preseason finale and would be given every opportunity to, potentially put his best foot forward and, just show what he can do. But, I think the fact that Kravtsov was a healthy scratch in this game, probably tells you that he's not going to be out there on the opening night lineup. Now, I don't think they're going to put him on waivers or anything like that. I suppose it's possible that, maybe Chris Drury can strike a trade at the 0 hour here and deal Kravtsov, right before the season starts. I don't think that'll happen either. It can't be ruled out because, Drury was never really a Kravtsov guy in the first place, and we know the tumultuous relationship that the Rangers and Kravtsov have had with each other. Obviously, everybody's been playing nice in the sandbox recently, but you never know. I mean, a trade could always be right around the corner, and any trade of Kravtsov, at this point, I would like to see him get a chance this season. But if he got traded, would I be surprised? Would I be all that mad about it? No, not really. I mean, so much has happened that I don't think anything can be surprising when it comes to Vitali Kravtsov, including a potential trade. But, I will say this as well. Kravtsov, he played in 4 preseason games with the Rangers, and only 2 players played in more than that. That would be Chytil, who played 5, as well as, Jimmy Vesey, who played 5. So he got an opportunity to put his best foot forward. But again, him not playing in this preseason finale, that tells me that he's probably going to be the 13th forward to start the season, and he will not be out there on opening night, because I think the Rangers, when you look at their forwards last night, they pretty much went with as close to a dress rehearsal type game as you could possibly go with. I mean, everybody else that you would expect to be in the mix dressed for this game. Again, obviously no Trouba, no Lindgren, but they were both injured. Everybody else, I mean, these are guys that you pretty much expect to be out there on opening night, and Kravtsov obviously was not. So, you look at this, I think this is pretty much the lineup we're going to get on opening night, the lineup that I just read. And also, it's worth pointing out that, Sammy Blais sustained an injury in this game. They don't think it's anything serious, although the Rangers have a long and storied history of, kind of underestimating injuries. And when players do get hurt, they always... if the Rangers tell you that somebody's going to be back in like a week or 2, yeah, probably more like 3 to 4 weeks. They just seem to, I don't know if it's just overly optimistic or what it is, but they seem to kind of jump the gun as far as players coming back from injury. But they say Blais is day-to-day. We'll see if he's out there on opening night. I think if he's not out there on opening night, then that probably paves the way for Kravtsov to get the start. I think maybe at that point, they'd have some options. If Blais not there, that opens up a spot on the 4th line. I don't want Kravtsov on the 4th line. You could drop Gaudreau from 3rd line right wing to 4th line left wing, and then you could put Kravtsov in his spot and put him out there with Chytil and Lafreniere on the 3rd line. The other option is you could drop Jimmy Vesey from the 2nd line to the 4th line and put Kravtsov out there on the Panarin line, and everything would kind of come full circle as far as how the season started. But we'll have a better idea of that when we find out if Sammy Blais is going to play on opening night or not. But for the time being, yeah, I mean, Kravtsov, a little bit of a disappointing preseason, didn't do enough to really stand out and earn that spot. And it looks like if everything stays the way it is, he'll probably be watching the first game from the press box. And of course, the other thing too is, anytime something like this happens with Kravtsov, you kind of hold your breath a little bit. How is he going to respond to this? If it's the new and improved and better attitude Vitali Kravtsov, then he'll handle it okay. He won't throw a fit. He won't, be on the next plane out of town or anything like that. He'll deal with it, and he'll await his opportunity. But, yeah, I mean, anytime that Kravtsov is, demoted or sent to the AHL or whatever it might be, you do get a little bit nervous. You do kind of hold your breath and like, oh, God, what's going to happen? But we'll see how everything shakes out. I think, like I said, if Blais is good to go on Tuesday, then I think you see Kravtsov probably as a healthy scratch. But we shall see there. Gonna keep this thing rolling in just a second. We're going to, like I said, talk about the Rangers preseason as a whole, a couple of plays from this game, some roster decisions, and once again, Kaapo Kakko continuing to have a very impressive preseason. I would say that that's probably the most positive thing that the Rangers have had in this preseason is Kaapo Kakko looking good no matter who he's out there with and scoring a couple goals as well. And we're going to do all that in just a second. But first, just want to let everybody know, today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I use Athletic Greens literally every day. I started taking it because I wanted a supplement that actually tasted great, and I wanted to see what all the hype was about. Now I've been on it for several months, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has kind of a mild, tropical taste that I actually look forward to each morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It is lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. All right, so as I was discussing, just a couple minutes ago, I think Kaapo Kakko, you look at this Ranger preseason as a whole, he is probably the biggest positive, the thing you feel best about going into the regular season because, again, he's entering year 4 here. The Rangers are getting to a point where they're expecting more out of him. They pretty much need more out of him, and he scored a heck of a goal for his 3rd of the preseason. And I think one of the things that's most impressive about Kakko is they've used him on a couple different lines, in this preseason. He was out there with the kid line. He got a chance with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, and obviously he took advantage of that situation because, he's, again, scored a couple goals in his most recent couple of games here. He scores at 6:50 of the 3rd period here against the Islanders. Just a beautiful goal. Gets a pass from Braden Schneider across the ice, moves in very calmly, and just picks the top corner on the near side over the shoulder of the goalie. And what really stood out to me about this goal is just the ease with which Kakko scored here. I mean, he moved in so calmly, cool, calm, and collected, didn't rush his shot, and just put it right where it needed to be. And it kind of reminded me a little bit, it's a different kind of goal, but he went in with kind of the same approach, I thought. The goal that he scored earlier this preseason, where he went in on the breakaway and just went forehand, backhand, basically undressed the goalie, scored on the backhand, and just made it look easy. That's the sign of a player who's kind of unlocking all that enormous skill that we know that he possesses. Obviously, it hasn't always been on display over his first few seasons, but this kid is tremendously talented, and just a very impressive goal here, just making it look easy. That's really been the theme of all 3 of his goals. Now, of course, the one goal that he scored earlier in the preseason, the puck was literally laying on the goal line, and all he had to do was put out his stick and knock it into the net. But the other 2, again, the breakaway goal against the Bruins, and then this goal here against the Islanders, what really stood out for me was his ability, once again, it just made it look so easy. That's something that only the best players in the NHL can do, to score and just, have that ease about it. Have that situation where, it doesn't even look like it was that much of a challenge. He just very calmly deposits the puck into the net. Good stuff all around from Kaapo Kakko. And I think at this point, he's been out there with Mika and Kreider the last couple of games. You gotta figure he's going to be out there on opening night with those 2, because how could he possibly not be? Everybody else got an opportunity. Kaapo Kakko is the one doing the most with it, and that was the regular season finale, so I can't imagine they're going to make a change. When he scored 3 goals in his last 2 games, can't imagine they're going to make a change between now and opening night and go with somebody else there. But we will go ahead and continue talking about everything surrounding the Rangers heading into opening night, and we will do that in just a second. All right, so definitely want to break down a couple of things that have happened here with the Rangers, and just for some full context here, I'm recording this episode on Sunday. I did the first portion of this on Sunday morning, and I'm kind of picking it back up here in the late afternoon, and I'm glad that I am, because quite a few things have happened since I started recording this morning. For starters, we know that Jimmy Vesey has made the New York Rangers, so big congratulations to him. And again, I know he's already something of a polarizing New York Ranger because, there's people that think that, there's better people than Jimmy Vesey to go with and guys with higher upside. But I still do think that you have to, tip your cap a little bit and give credit where it's due. Jimmy Vesey made this team. He was in here on a PTO, maybe a 50-50 shot at best coming into the training camp, and he made sure that he makes this opening night roster, and no guarantee that he'll be dressed on opening night, but it would seem like he probably will be. And as I was mentioning earlier, Vitali Kravtsov could probably end up being the healthy scratch in such a situation. So we'll see. I would imagine, though, based on what they did in the last preseason game, could be Vesey out there very easily with Panarin and Trocheck on the second line. So pretty wild to think, in on a PTO and get to play with Panarin to start the season. The other bit of news for the Rangers is that a couple of players who were not going to make this team were placed on waivers a little bit earlier today. Julien Gauthier was one of them. Jared Tinordi was the other one. Tinordi, they brought him in last year on a 2-year deal, making pretty much the league minimum, I believe. And, it's definitely 6 figures. But, yeah, I mean, he's not somebody that really factors into the Rangers' plans this season, I don't think. I suppose his organizational depth and as somebody who is, a defenseman on the AHL team, it's fine. If you're ever in a situation where, you're expecting trouble from a certain opponent and you need to go, with the rough and tough lineup, I suppose he at least becomes an option. But I did not see enough from Jared Tinordi last season to really, want to see a whole lot more of him, if I'm being completely honest here. But his organizational depth, it's fine. He is all but certain to clear waivers, but I just can't see a team, basically, I don't want to say wasting, but kind of, wasting a waiver claim on Jared Tinordi. Unless there's a team out there that sees something that I just don't see, and or they just feel like they need to get tougher going into the season and they want an enforcer. Maybe, but I don't think there's any way possible that he gets claimed on waivers. I should also mention Tinordi got into a fight in the preseason finale against the Islanders, and hey, I guess you got to do what you got to do, right? For starters, it's Rangers-Islanders, and if you're Jared Tinordi, he's trying to do something to make an impression, turn some heads, make this team, but, obviously simply getting into a fight in the preseason finale against the Islanders wasn't going to be enough for it, and he is not waiver exempt, so he'll have to pass through waivers. I would imagine he will, and if he does, you can expect to see him reassigned to the Hartford Wolfpack to start the season. But yeah, Jared Tinordi, never really somebody that was in serious contention for an opening night roster spot. As for Julien Gauthier, we've been kind of, up and down with Julien Gauthier over the past few years. He's somebody that I think has an intriguing blend of size and speed that, you don't really see all that often. But again, we've been through this story multiple times. It's just never really translated to success at the NHL level. And so Julien Gauthier got some chances this past season, got a good amount of run, but once the Rangers went through the trade deadline this past year and added all the forwards that they added, there's no way Julien Gauthier was going to be anything close to a regular in this lineup. I'm not even sure he played a single game after the trade deadline this past season. I know for sure that he did not play in the playoffs, but he heads to waivers. And unlike Tinordi, I would say there's at least a chance that somebody claims Julien Gauthier. He is still just 24 years old, which is hard to believe because it feels like he's been here for a decent amount of time. But yeah, still just 24. He'll make $800K this upcoming season. And then at the end of this upcoming season, he is a restricted free agent who is arbitration eligible. So, it's possible that kind of a downtrodden team, a team that's looking to find somebody, a hidden gem, somebody that is still young, still has a little bit of upside, and still is cost-controlled, they might take a chance on Julien Gauthier, and it's entirely possible that we see him get claimed. If he does not get claimed, I would imagine he would head to the Hartford Wolfpack right alongside Tinordi. Gauthier also this offseason put in a trade request. I thought he played decently well in the preseason. As I was mentioning during some of our post-game recap episodes, there were certain games where I thought he played with a little bit more physicality than we're used to seeing from him, and that's great and everything, but I don't know that he did enough to, make this team, and as a result of that, he's now on waivers, and now we play the waiting game. We just see if anybody claims Julien Gauthier. One player who was notably absent, or I guess, exempt from, not exempt, but the Rangers chose not to waive him. That's what I'm looking for here. But that would be Dryden Hunt. Dryden Hunt is on the final year of his contract. He will make $762,500. He's a UFA at the end of the year. He seems to be a favorite of Gerard Gallant. Gallant overall seems to like his game. It is a physical game, and he plays hard and everything, but Dryden Hunt's upside is almost non-existent. I just can't see him ever really being more than like a NHL, AHL swingman, fourth line type player. He's fine for what he is. They gave him a little bit of run on the second line this past season. That was never going to last long term, and it didn't last. And, we'll see what happens here. But it is interesting, though, because, you look at this team right now, and even after Gauthier is placed on waivers, you've still got 14 forwards for 12 spots. And to just run through them really quick here, you got Panarin, Mika, Kreider, Trocheck, Gaudreau, Hedl, Kakko, Kravtsov, Reeves, Blais, Lafreniere, Hunt, Carpenter, and Vesey. So it kind of feels like what might be happening here. A lot of us were thinking that the Rangers would start this season with just 22 players on the roster, and you would just have 2 healthy scratches night in and night out. It sounds like if they stick with these same 14 forwards here, the ones that I just mentioned, then you'll have 2 forwards that are healthy scratches and presumably 1 defenseman that's a healthy scratch. I don't see how you can possibly not have a single extra defenseman. So it sounds like, at least to start the season, the Rangers might go with 3 healthy scratches, and I would imagine those 3 players would probably be Libor Hajek would be the defenseman, Vitali Kravtsov would be one of the 2 forwards, and then I'm assuming probably Dryden Hunt would be the other forward. Hunt could always sub in for Ryan Reeves on any given night. It's also possible that maybe Sammy Blais has a worse injury than we realize, and maybe he's IR bound. I mean, I don't want to say that for sure. I have no idea. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. But as I mentioned earlier in this episode, the Rangers tend to paint a rosier picture with their injuries than what reality is. So it's possible maybe Blais misses some time, and maybe in that situation, Kravtsov slots back into the lineup, and then Dryden Hunt is your only forward healthy scratch. So we'll see how the whole thing shakes out. Very, very interested to see, who's out there on opening night, who the healthy scratches are. It's also possible that, again, as I mentioned earlier, Vitali Kravtsov could end up being traded before this season begins. And maybe Chris Drury is working on something as we speak. Maybe he strikes a deal at the 0 hour. Only time's going to tell there. But very, very interesting to see how this whole thing plays out in the final couple of days here before the season starts. But I figure we can pretty much call it there for today. I am planning on doing in our next episode a crossover special with my good friend Adam Denker of Locked On Tampa Bay Lightning. It'll be good to talk to Adam again. Hopefully he doesn't brag too much about what happened in the Eastern Conference Finals this past season, but we shall see. Definitely looking forward to that, talking about the things that both teams did in the offseason here and what to expect from this game, the whole 9 yards. Always good talking to Adam, and we'll definitely look forward to that. And then after the opening night, Rangers Lightning, I'll probably be rolling solo again, and we'll break the game down just like we always do, but cannot wait. Ranger hockey really right around the corner at this point, and just cannot wait for that puck to drop on opening night. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is at @LO_NY_Rangers. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast.